Okay, this video I'm making from home. I've been home, well, I've been off the trail for about 10 days now. Back home about a week, and decided to do a little bit of a follow-up video on a couple of things. I reviewed some of the videos I made, and I missed a few things, so I wanted to just clarify a couple things on some of those videos. And also, I wanted to show how I set up my Durston tent. There was a comment, someone wanted to know how I did it, because I really liked how I could set it up. Very easy once I got the hang of it. And so I'll be showing that too later. But before I do any of that, I wanted to talk about my tent pegs. So I found these a few years ago, and I've got 8 of them, and they're very, very robust. Very hard to bend, virtually unbendable. And I've had these for about 5 years now, probably hiked close to 2,000 miles with them. I'm not even sure how many nights. And I thought I could never bend one of these because it was very, very difficult to do that. However, on this trip, I did have one that was slightly bent, hard ground. But this one, I'm going to see if I can straighten it out later. But I used it one night, and I couldn't get it out the next morning. It was, as it turns out, I'd pounded it into a root, a tree root, and unless I'd had a hammer, it took me a good 3, 4, 5 minutes to wiggle this thing loose. So it was eventually bendable, but I have to say that's not normal conditions. Obviously, going into ground, it was going into a root. So that was a little. I'd never shown these before, I don't think. So I'm extremely happy, and I cannot remember who makes these. There's a insignia on here, but there's no name. So I'll have to research more unless someone out there knows what it is. So some of the things I wanted to talk about. First of all, including my June fiasco where I got sick and got off trail, I completed 214 miles this summer of the PCT. I got off at just after mile 1502, which is just before Castle Crags Park. And I had to get off there no matter what, whether I was getting off for good for the year or flipping because of the root fire. So I decided, one of the reasons I decided to not flip was because that was a very convenient place for me to get back on trail. I know exactly how I can get there using leaving my vehicle where I left it this year and using public transit to get to that point. So that's my plan, and that's one of the reasons I left at that point. So the first video, I did a slack pack hike to the midpoint, and a slack pack basically means you're just not carrying everything you need, in case you didn't know what that was. And so that was just an in and out to the midpoint. I still have 18 miles on the other side of the midpoint that I want to complete, and I have to figure out the logistics of doing that. I have to getting to where I got off when I got sick is going to be a bit challenging, but I may have a way to accomplish that. The second video, I was in Lassen National Park and National Forest, but the National Park, Mount Lassen is actually an active volcano, and it blew in 1914, and I think it lasted 2 or 3 years possibly at that time, and there was a ton of lava that I walked over, which I didn't video, and maybe I should have, so you could have seen. And that part of the trail just tore my shoes up. I've hiked 2 pairs of shoes on the PCT. One is a pair of Salomon Ultras, and this pair of La Sportivas, which did pretty well. They're really good desert, I thought, shoe. but they finally just wore right out on this trip. So they got tossed, but I do have a picture of the soles I can show you. So I'll be going back to a new set of Solomon Ultras, which I've hiked maybe 100 miles in them already, so they're kind of broke in. The power station that I videoed was at Baum Lake, and that's an old 1920s power station, I was told. So that was an interesting spot too, because there's a lake that's formed by that, and it's like a bird refuge. There are all kinds of birds that I could see, but they wouldn't have filmed very well, like storks, cranes, obviously geese and ducks and other waterfowl. When I went to Bernie Mountain Guest Ranch, I think I said it was August 3rd. Of course, it was September 3rd. But I really, as I mentioned, I really liked it. I'm wearing a shirt that I got there. And you can buy this off the PCT website if you're interested. Bernie Mountain Guest Ranch was selling these. And I also found them at 2 Foot Adventures, which is, there's a lady, and I met her in Kennedy Meadows, that owns 2 Foot Adventures, assuming she's still around. Her website's still up. She sells these as well. So if you're hiking and you happen to run into her, ask her if she has these. The next video on September 4th and 5th were with the helicopters, and I had videoed a little bit of them, the one coming up, but it was without water. And I'm not sure, there are belly loaders apparently, but I don't know if that was or not. And I know one of them was carrying a water basket. So I think they might have been done for the day, because that was the last I saw of them for the rest of that day. And one of the things too, when I got to Bernie Falls Park, that kind of delineated two parts of the hike. The first part, there were a lot of places to stop. There was Old Station, there was Bernie Mountain Guest Ranch, there was Bernie Falls. There was an RV park. I had campgrounds with running water. So it was almost like day hiking every day and having a place to stop. The second week after Bernie Falls was much more primitive. There was no running water. I had a couple of those campsites, but really they're just pit toilets, and otherwise you're just tenting you could have tented anywhere and had the same amenities pretty much. So it was interesting, because the first week was more people, more things to do, more things to see. The second week, still things to see, different things obviously, far less people, and really more of a wilderness type of hike. But I did like it. Well, for the most part. At the end, you like it. There's times during the day where you're like, why am I doing this? So that was about 75 miles of that kind of hiking, which culminated in the last day being extremely cold and wet. I did point out Mount Shasta. They call that a stratovolcano, potentially active, and it's the highest peak in the Cascade Range, I think just over 14,000 feet, I think. The next video was the one where I had the so-called, the bird warning, and it is a thing. I've read a little bit about it afterwards. I've also had a local friend who said, yeah, that is a thing that can happen. So maybe not. As far as the bird goes, I didn't think it was a crow, but it could have been. It might have been a grackle, but I don't know if there's grackles up in the mountains or not. I did mention that the deer the one night, and I'd seen the eyes reflecting, and then I could basically see the outline of the deer. What I didn't mention was that in the background, maybe another 50 yards, was another pair of eyes. And I couldn't tell what that animal was. And I don't think it was a deer. So, speculating, I don't know if a bear would take down a deer, but maybe it was a cat, and but maybe it was another deer. it's just the eyes didn't look the same to me, and I hadn't mentioned that. I talked about how I wanted to wash my feet and legs, and I did virtually every night. I did bring some wet wipes so I could at least clean my feet. And then when I was at the McLeod River, I washed them really well. Something I haven't been doing in the past, but it does make a difference, to the health of my feet, and especially with the blisters that I was getting. Kept the feet clean. I had some isopropyl alcohol pads that I would wipe my feet with, or the blisters, so I was trying my best to keep them clean. It seemed to work. When I did get off the trail at Castella, I had missed the shuttle, but there was a phone number, and I phoned a couple of people, and that's where I got a ride from there. So, and her name was Noelle. Very, very nice lady. Really interested in helping out hikers, and I just took some money for gas. That was it. And then I bought her a coffee afterwards, and we chatted for a while. So so those are a few things on the videos that I wanted to clarify a bit in case someone was wondering about some things. Next year I'll be planning to go back. I'll be checking with Jean, my friend, to see if he wants to go when I go. I'm hoping he would like to. Just makes it, since I've been doing that, hiking with somebody, it just makes it a little more pleasant. You're going through it together, and you kind of help each other out. So that helps, I think. Makes me feel better because now I've clarified a few things. And then I'm going to show my tent, how I set it up and how easy it is. One of the issues with that tent, though, and I brought it up a couple of times, is the footprint. And I'm going to give some serious consideration to taking my old one-person tent, my Sierra Designs, in the future. The footprint makes a big difference. As much as, and I guess maybe I should have bought the X-Mid 1 instead of the X-Mid 2. I did like the extra room inside, but it limits my tent sites a little bit. So anyway, you'll see the video of me setting up the tent here next. So thanks again for watching. Okay, I'm going to show you a couple of reasons that I like the Durston for setup. First thing, though, I use the stuff method when I package my tent up in a bag. Unfortunately, the bag that the tent came with is pretty small. So I actually use this bag, my Sierra Designs bag, because it's a little bit bigger, and so it's easier to stuff in there. Now you can see I've staked it out. It's pretty simple. You stake it out and then you adjust to make it square. But underneath, the tent itself is actually diagonal, which is, when you watch the Durston videos, they explain why that makes it roomier inside. But what I've done, and we'll see if I can show you here. I'll undo this one and show you that what I've done underneath. So I've actually, there's the tent. This is the inner. Let me see if I can, there's the inner part. And then underneath is the footprint. And I've, or the ground sheet, if you want to call it that, from Durston. And I've connected them all together. And I leave them that way. And then when it comes out of the sack, all I have to do is hook it up. Put it on the ground. And then, now, does it get tangled up? Yeah, sometimes, but not very often. And so it does make it a little bit easier and quicker to put this out, especially if the weather isn't going to be that good. Now I'm going to show you, here's how it gets really simple and interesting to me, how they designed this. So you can see that everything's all zipped up. So the first thing you have to do is unzip each side to put the tent poles in. And I'm not very good at videoing me doing things, but I will show you the end result here in a second. Okay, so once the pole's inserted, you can see that the handle goes on the bottom. There is actually a little strap to go around it, and same on the other side, but that's it. There are no guy lines required. Now I undid this guy line, but I think I only used it once. And again, once those trekking poles are inserted, you've created your roof line and it's done. I really like that. It's so easy to set up. Once you get the corners down, put the poles in and you're good to go. So very, very easy. You don't even need trees obviously around for the guy lines to tie to. I guess you could tie the guy lines to the ground as well. But that's why I like the tent, or the setup of the tent. I would definitely get another one if I decide not to use the 2-man anymore. I would use the X-Mid 1 if I do switch, and I would it would be a Durston, just because of the setup. Now when I'm done with this, I'm going to clean this tent, but when I package it for long term, for over the winter, I will fold it. I'm not going to stuff this. I'll fold it up and put it in to a tent or a bag or a box, and that's it.